What is going on, everyone? This is Kazak here, and I'm here again with a new video for you guys. Today, we live in an era where JRPG remasters and remakes are becoming more and more prominent over these recent years with varying levels of success. While this topic can be applied to gaming as a whole, I'll mainly use JRPGs as an example since, well, JRPGs is a large part of my channel brand after all. What really sparked this interest for me to talk about this wasn't just the potential possibilities of games like Tales of the Abyss or Skies of Arcadia getting modern remasters, but rather the conversation surrounding these releases in general and how some people view them as cash grabs or nostalgia baiting. They believe that the companies are relying too much on bringing back these old games and are making a quick buck from releasing the same old games. This is also something that my brother Callie Q covered in his video, Nostalgia is the Cancer of Gaming, which heavily inspired me to make this video. I also recommend that you check out his video on it, especially since this is becoming more of a relevant topic. While this sentiment of companies making these as cash grabs and nostalgia bait comes from a vocal minority of people, I've seen this type of conversation enough to get my own take on it. To be honest, this is a point that I understand where they're coming from, but I believe that this completely overlooks and undermines the importance of these releases. I think this is a statement that stems from gamers who have already experienced these games before, and in their view, it looks like they're just being lazy. Now, is there some cases where there's remasters slash remakes that are redundant and are petty attempts of nostalgia baiting? Absolutely. But does that mean we should completely dismiss remasters and remakes as a whole? Hell no. There's reasons why they have their place in the gaming world. Now, since remasters and remakes are two different entities, I'll be separating them into two sections of this video. So for right now, let's just focus on remasters and why it's absolutely vital that we have them in this gaming space. When it comes to video games, companies haven't done the greatest job of keeping their old catalog of games available for everyone to easily access and enjoy. If anything, we're losing the ability to play older games more and more. According to the Video Game History Foundation, they studied and concluded that 87% of classic games are at risk of being lost. The availability of these games are extremely low, meaning that it's getting to a point where they will be inaccessible to the larger audience. Now, do keep in mind that this was made back in 2023, so things might be different now. However, there is still an ongoing battle of trying to keep these classic games accessible as much as humanly possible. So, what exactly does that have to do with remasters? Well, let me give you guys a random example. Capcom has recently announced the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, a collection featuring a bunch of their older fighting games. In this particular remaster, we have two games that I think stand out here, called Project Justice and Plasma Sword. You know how many times they've been released on home consoles? Only once on the Sega Dreamcast. And how much do the hard copies cost? Damn near over $1,000, and the amount of copies for them is very limited. So let's say you wanted to play these games prior to the remaster's release. You would have to go buy a Dreamcast and the potential accessories along with it, find a copy somewhere at a local retro game store or online if you magically do come across it, then dish out months of your paycheck on a Dreamcast game. This alone is a reason why companies pushing out these collections is a massive deal. Having the ability to experience these games in such a convenient and amazing package is an absolute blessing. And without them, these games would be on the brink of being completely lost to time with only a select few people remembering them. Granted, remasters are not necessarily the only way to preserve games effectively, but it does at least give the opportunity for new players to play it and shows that the companies are putting an effort to make sure that their catalog is still available for their fans. Not only that, but remasters also provide additional quality of life adjustments and improvements to strengthen your experience of the game entirely. For JRPGs, it can be things like changing encounter rates, correcting translation errors, running at 60 FPS, and adding all the additional DLC content that wasn't available for the original base game. Tiny changes as they might be can be enough to improve someone's enjoyment of the game in a very positive way. It's essentially a good way to improve some of the original game's issues, at least when done correctly. Chrono Cross Remaster. Wow, that was pretty weird. Well, okay. Anyways, remasters also provide newcomers a chance to experience these games. I want you guys to keep in mind that this is coming from the perspective of somebody who was born in this newer era of gaming. So I actually didn't get a chance to experience consoles like the Sega Genesis, SNES, and even the Dreamcast during their peak years, which means there's a lot of great and underrated gems that I missed out on simply because I was too young and stupid to understand something as basic as a toaster, let alone comprehend what a game console was. As a result, the feeling of nostalgia that veteran fans have is something that I couldn't fully resonate, which is why I became interested and obsessed with diving back into retro games. I wanted to understand the magic behind the old generation of gaming and even create my own sense of nostalgia and memories with them. As an example, I got attached to the Dot Hack franchise because of Dot Hack slash GU Last Recode, which is a remaster that included the original 3 volumes alongside an additional new volume to tie up some of the loose ends. I remember seeing the initial trailer for it and it intrigued me enough to want to buy the game. This particular remaster was how I got my first taste of the Dot Hack series, and it's because of it that I could understand the appeal behind the series. Hell, I love GU so much to the point that I became a full-fledged fan of the franchise, going back and even playing the original IMMO games on my PlayStation 2, which all started because of the collection. If it wasn't for it, I probably would have never caught on to this franchise. It's things like this that give these type of releases their value. Obviously, I enjoyed looking forward to the new generation of games and seeing the evolution of technology that can further enhance our experience. However, in order to appreciate how far we come, we still also need to value and treasure the old technology that paved the way. I believe in being able to be enchanted with the old and new at the same time. The old games inspire the new games that we have today, and without their foundation, we wouldn't have these new games. Plus, some people out there simply just want to enjoy their older games that they love and enjoy on a modern system that's easy to access. It's important to have these things as options because everyone's gaming tastes and values are extremely different. Just because new games exist doesn't mean players will automatically enjoy them more than the older titles, nor can they replace them in the eyes of the player. People should have the ability to play the games that they enjoy. Now that I covered remasters, let's talk about remakes for a little bit. Remakes in the gaming space is essentially an alternate way of enjoying a pre-existing game with new graphical overhauls, massive gameplay changes, opportunities to enhance the narrative, and even voice acting. While these types of releases have generally been pretty successful in recent years, there's still a bit of contention from some players that believe there's an over-reliance on remakes, and as a result stifles the creativity for the companies. While I can agree that over-reliance on remakes is something that can be an issue, I don't believe creativity is one of them. If anything, remakes give more creative liberties to the game devs to incorporate potential scrapped ideas or to fully fulfill the visions that they had for the game that they couldn't before because of console limitations or time restraints. There's a reason why the developers from Square Enix made Final Fantasy VII a trilogy. I know some people will go with the cheap answer, which is money, and while that is obviously true, there's a bigger motivation than just that. Doing a simple one-to-one remake of the game wouldn't do the game justice in their eyes. They wanted to fully expand the scope of the world and make it more immersive than it's ever been. While this has been considered to be a pretty controversial move by fans, I believe it's pretty admirable that the team are willing to go through the extra mile, and honestly, they're doing exactly what a remake is supposed to be. A new recreation of a beloved JRPG title. Although it's not the only example. We've seen similar cases such as Persona 3 Reload, Star Ocean The Second Story R, Dragon Quest III Remake, and the upcoming Trails in the Sky remake. These titles all incorporate new elements to create a familiar but new experience for both veterans and newcomers. Not to mention, remakes are a great way to fix issues from older games. There are people that struggle to play the original due to the games being dated by having clunky controls, being visually unappealing. Remakes are the alternatives that those people have the option to play, which likely fixes those issues. Assuming if it's done well, of course. Again, I understand that sometimes people are tired of old ideas being constantly reused, but in the case of remakes, the old ideas are inspiring the new ideas, while the new ideas inspires the old ones through their new gameplay and story improvements. As an example, I call back the Star Ocean The Second Story R. This game manages to retain its older assets such as the 2D pixel art, voice acting, while everything else is completely revamped with new 3D assets and significant overhauls to the gameplay, which creates a vastly different experience compared to both its PS1 and PSP counterparts, which didn't have any of these additions. Overall, the point of this is to talk about why these types of releases matter and should be something that we show appreciation for. Well, when it's done right at least. As I mentioned before, I'm well aware about how companies can easily exploit them through nostalgia baiting their audience, but that can be done through new games as well. So I don't feel like this is just an exclusive issue to remakes or remasters. At the end of the day, I believe in allowing the players to be able to enjoy old games and understand what makes them special. I also believe in allowing developers to give us new creative ideas and takes on older classics to create an experience worth playing. At least that's just what I believe. Feel free to let me know if you guys agree or disagree. With that said, this was Kazak, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.